Hey, what's happening Wednesday? This is Dev from Tinynormous. I hope you had a wonderful New Year's and holiday season. Rewind. Took a couple weeks off for that, and quite honestly, really needed it. And I'm betting a lot of you folks did too. But now we're in 2025, and I wanted to revisit the very first What's Happening Wednesday concept, which was releasing a vinyl album in today's day and age. Our album is coming out in March. I should mention that. I'll put a picture up over there somewhere, and keep your eyes open for that. But I wanted to talk about why I ended up deciding to do that and leaving Spotify and all the streaming services. I know a lot of people are thinking about it, and for me, it made a lot of sense. So first of all, I'm old school, been playing out since the 90s. So gigs are very important to me, and the concept of creating a moment that the people that are there are in on, that other folks are kind of missing out on, was a little bit more important to me, and has been a little bit more important to me than recording something that gets a lot of views, right? I know that's kind of an old school idea, but it's true. And the return on investment for someone like me on Spotify just wasn't really making sense. So I'll just step through the journey very, very quickly, and then talk about kind of my issues with the platform in general, not just Spotify, but just streaming platforms in general. So, I guess I'll start off with that when I cashed out on Spotify after everything was paid, I had like $86 or something like that. And talking to other artists of mine, and that was for a couple 100,000 plays, I think a couple thousand at our peak, and like a couple thousand monthly listeners. No like huge numbers, right? But that was what I had made, and that was after paying DistroKid for 2 years and stuff like that. And I was talking to some other musician friends of mine. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And I was like, it doesn't feel pretty good. And like, quite honestly, when you get paid 4% of a penny per stream, we're going to talk about what a stream is in a little bit, and how that's affecting music, and how that doesn't really feed into what it is that I'm doing. It just didn't feel like the juice was worth the squeeze, right? Like, I started off releasing an EP, and I'm kind of old school, and I like the long form stuff. This is another thing we'll talk about in a bit. But then learning about what Spotify rewards, what Spotify's algorithm rewards. And again, I haven't looked into this for probably about 6 to 8 months, so I don't know if it has changed. But at the time, what everyone was doing to boost their visibility was releasing singles regularly. So I was releasing singles regularly. And there's a lot that goes into that is more than just the music. Well, first, there's the writing, recording, mastering, and then you have to put together like a description and like the cover image and stuff like that. So there's a significant amount of work, I would say, for a single release. Now, what Tinynormous does also is instrumental music, like jazz influenced jam band stuff. The slogan that I put together for us is instrumentally chill, which is kind of the opposite of what most acts who are doing great, like Chapel Roan and Dua Lipa do, right? And so the algorithm's already kind of stacked against us in terms of what people would be interested in listening to. So I'm going to talk about what a stream is. It's my understanding that a stream counts as someone listening for at least 30 seconds, right? And so what people want is more repeat streams. So if your song is shorter and you get to the point in the first 30 seconds, which is why we're getting a lot of, and I don't mean to talk trash about this too, because like I love Dominic Fike's music. I like that kid so far. I'm really, really into what he's done. And I listen to his stuff over and over again. And that's kind of the point. A lot of his songs are like 2.5 minutes. They get to the chorus in the first 30 seconds. It's kind of tailor-made for Spotify, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to get to the stream really quick. In the first 20, 30 seconds, I get the hook, or something's there that is going to keep me around, and then I want to listen to it again. So that's perfect for Spotify's algorithm, right? Whereas a 6-minute long instrumental jam that doesn't even get out of the intro for the first hour. Gosh, that would be a prog rock epic, right? But doesn't even get out of the intro for the first minute is like the exact opposite of what Spotify would want to reward. And if you take a look at, and Ben Jordan's done an awesome series on what's going on with AI in Spotify or in streaming services. Absolutely check that out. I'll put a link in the description. It's really cool. It just came out last week, if I remember correctly, just a couple days ago. But like what's happening now, the volume of music that's going up, the ability to create AI music and upload it There's just so many things happening. I used to be a game developer. Well, you can't see. I was wondering if you could see this poster of one of the games on which I worked, but they're over there. But it reminds me of what was happening with Steam about 6-8 years ago. If you're into video games, where just all of a sudden, like previously being on Steam was a big deal, and that was actually our goal for our indie game that we released a few years ago, 6 years ago now. Well, our original goal was to just get it on Steam. That would immediately legitimize the project. But by the time we released it, Steam was getting like 8,000 games a day or something like that. So the saturation is really there, and being discovered is a very, very difficult thing. And so since videos make more sense to me, and actually owning something, I think, is really important. If you look at Spotify's business and where that's going, it's really concerning to me as a musician, not just completely putting aside what a stream is, how much musicians get paid, all that stuff. Musicians have always been underpaid. You know, that's the reality of it. Is those who are at the top have always been well rewarded. Those who are in the middle have always been underpaid, and those who are at the bottom, like me, make what we make, and that's totally fine. That's why we teach and stuff like that, right? But creating videos for YouTube is much more rewarding for me than trying to play to the Spotify algorithm. And I put out on YouTube and Deezer and Apple Music and Tidal, but no one seems to care about that. I don't mean that in the fact that like nobody uses them, but what people will ask for is like, well, how many monthly Spotify users do you have? Even if they use Apple Music, they will ask how many monthly Spotify listeners you've got, right? So Spotify has become kind of the standard to judge how well a band is doing. And for a band like what we are, it's never going to reward us, or unless something drastically changes. Now, also with Spotify's business never turning a profit, and take a look. There's plenty of information on what's happening with Spotify as a business, and I'm really concerned about that concept of it being the kind of the new Billboard charts, is seeing what's on the top Spotify plays. Because if Spotify fails as a business, then what happens? We lose the main place where people go to see what's happening with the music industry. That's going to throw us into even more chaos. So yeah, that's exactly how I ended up deciding to put together a vinyl record. I'm actually considering putting out a cassette tape here in the Twin Cities last year for Record Store Day. I also I produced a little cassette tape that was local instrumental bands, and it was well received, and it disappeared very, very quickly. So I'm thinking about also doing a cassette release. I think that people are starting to realize that actually owning your music is really great. You know, Spotify and Apple Music and stuff give us a lot of value in terms of, for what was less than the cost of a single CD before, every month, for what was less than the cost of a single CD, we can listen to just about anything that we could find. But the algorithm does not give me the things that I want to hear very often. I find I'm much more likely to come across a new artist that I really like through YouTube than I am through Spotify. And like I said, if it wasn't for the audiobooks, I think I would have actually left Spotify a little bit ago. It doesn't really offer me that much more value. So those are my thoughts. Let me know if I missed anything, or if you want to find out anything else. We've got that new album coming out in March, so stay tuned. Make sure you like and subscribe. I post a video like this every Wednesday. Cheers.